So hi everyone, it's Amanda Daley from fuelurbanwellness.com, and I'm very grateful to have with me here today Dr. Sherrill Sellman, and we're going to be chatting about hormones and what every woman wants to know. And before we even start, I'm so excited. You know that I'm all very passionate about adrenal fatigue and hormonal imbalances in women's health, so to have Sherrill here on the line with me tonight is very exciting. So thank you, Sherrill.
Well, thank you. It's one of my favorite topics as well.
Yeah, and welcome. You're in Australia at the moment, so that's exciting for us.
Yes, I'm here for 2 months. I'm kind of in the second month of my lecture tour going all over Australia and New Zealand. So it's been a wonderful tour, and I've got to meet so many women, and it's always great coming back to Australia.
We're blessed. So, as many of you know, I work with busy women for whom the toll of stress and everyday life is affecting their health. And for many women I work with, like, slowing down isn't an option. You know, that might be the obvious thing, like to go and just quit your job and lie on a beach. And some people like to joke that's what I did, but it's not always an option. So I'm really interested to start with Sherrill to hear what your thought is on this kind of almost stress syndrome that we're all coming up against from women being too busy. Like, how is that affecting women that you see, and how's that affecting our hormonal health?
Well, let's start with me, because when I was in my early 40s, I had a perfect storm occur. I had my own business. I was really successful, as the term goes. So I was working 48 weekends out of the year. I was working 67 hours a week, day and night, meals on the run. I wasn't sleeping really well. In fact, I was eating the wrong food. I learned afterwards that I was gluten intolerant, but it was a time when carbs were considered the health food. So I was eating lots of pastas and, just stress from just nonstop going. So that was going on in my life. And I actually was a vegetarian at the time. So I consider myself a recovering vegetarian, because I wasn't a very enlightened and educated vegetarian at all. Having coffee and a wholemeal muffin for lunch was not considered, I don't consider that a really healthy meal now. That's what we used to do, right? Totally. And so what happened to me was that my body started to show up a lot of issues. I started to have severe, let's just start with this severe hay fever. So that was, I've had hay fever most of my life, but it was getting really chronic and really severe. I also was dealing with eczema, which is also an issue I had for most of my life. I was starting to get arthritis in my fingers. I had a chronic long-term ache in my hip that disturbed my sleep. I always had ups and downs with moods, and my menstrual cycles would sometimes be really painful and difficult. I would wake up really tired in the morning. No matter what time I went to bed, I was always exhausted. Yeah. So I never could get up feeling alive and energized. Yeah. I also started to have things such as anxiety attacks at about 3 or 4 a.m. in the morning. So now suddenly these anxiety attacks are showing up, making me really anxious, fretful. It's like when you're in that state, whatever thought is going through your head, it's an anxious thought. And, of course, it would go on for about 2 hours, so I couldn't get any sleep. And, it would take me a while to get back. And by the time I went back to sleep, I'd have to get up, right? Mm-hmm. So that was going on. And then some other things started to show up. I was a psychotherapist back then, and I thought my anxiety attacks had to do with psychological issues. And I attempted to treat it that way, but it didn't work, because that wasn't the problem, as I learned. And the other thing, I was starting to get night sweats. So now I'm waking up around midnight, and I have these sweats going on, and finally getting back to sleep, and then these anxiety attacks would make their appearance every night. So I was a mess. This was really a time in my life when my body was just falling apart. And it was also around this time I had one more thing go on. I was diagnosed with Hashimoto's thyroiditis, which is the most common. 80% of women who have thyroid issues have Hashimoto's thyroiditis, which is an autoimmune condition of your thyroid. So I probably had thyroid issues for many, many years, decades probably in my life. And so That's where I was. And I just couldn't function and nothing was working. And all the beliefs I had about what to eat and how to take care of myself just weren't giving me any results. And that was the beginning of a transformation in my life. I'm really grateful that those night sweats arrived on the scene, as uncomfortable as they were. But it was the first time I had to start thinking hormones. And that led me on this long journey that I continue to this very day. I wrote my book, Hormone Heresy, What Women Must Know About Their Hormones. I've written other books that are exploring what's really going on. And Amanda, what's really going on for me in my journey, and I see this consistently, is adrenal exhaustion, adrenal fatigue. Adrenal fatigue is the root cause of all those issues. Now, there are other things that play into it, but adrenal exhaustion is the one that drives hormonal imbalance. It drives insomnia. It drives anxiety attacks. It drives poor memory. It drives thyroid imbalances. It drives compromised immunity and leaky gut issues, loss of muscle mass. It just drives everything I have learned. So for me, I work with women all the time in my practice as a naturopath, and I have not yet met a woman who wasn't in some stage of adrenal exhaustion. The problem is, as one woman in my Sydney seminar said last year, I went to my doctor saying, I think I have adrenal exhaustion, and the doctor replied, what's that?
Yeah.
So chase symptoms, but we don't understand the root cause. And unless we understand and can address things at the root cause level, we will always be running after symptoms. So we'll get antidepressants, we'll be put on the pill or bioidentical hormones or, given antibiotics or Xanax or, we'll be drugged, we'll be medicated because that's what you do when you go to a doctor. And, some of the other problems that occur, like the thyroid imbalances or the fibroids or the endometriosis or ovarian cysts or heavy periods or infertility issues, they're all related to adrenal exhaustion and all the downstream effects that will impact the body's ability to function.
Yeah. Oh, it's not nice, but it's almost nice, to hear you saying that, because it's exactly what I'm seeing everywhere. And it's all my clients are coming to me with the same thing now because they know I went through it. And it's especially the thing with the doctors. I went to the doctor once. I think I was having, I can't remember, trouble with something that maybe another doctor had given me. And this doctor just looked at me and said, there's no such thing as adrenal fatigue. And, this has got to stop. It's like, oh, no, there is, So it's something that a lot of women really struggle with. Like, who do I talk to about this?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, when this was going on in my life, I in a sense had to discover it. But right now, it's really well known in integrative medicine circles with naturopathic doctors. Chinese medicine acupuncturists can test through their diagnostic abilities through looking at the pulse to see these energies and how they're depleted. It's a very real thing. I see it with saliva testing, so that's one diagnostic tool that's really effective. We can look through taking some samples of your saliva. We can see the pattern, the rhythm of cortisol, which is the long-term stress hormone made by your adrenal glands. We actually can see how well it's functioning. If your adrenals are not operating properly, then this rhythm is impaired. Cortisol is all out of whack. I see it all the time. And one of the classic signs of this is actually getting that second wind late at night. So you might be dragging during the day, which people often are, but suddenly at night, 8, 9, 10 o'clock, all of a sudden your energy kicks in and you're up, you're on the computer, you're cleaning house, whatever you're doing. Bad idea, because that is a classic symptom of this dysfunction of the adrenals starting to take hold. We should be winding down and getting tired and ready to sleep. If you get that second wind, it's a sure sign that you are in some stage of adrenal dysfunction.
Totally. And that's probably one of the noticeable main symptoms that people come to with me. And it's that kind of tired but wired, isn't it? It's like they're exhausted all the time, but by the time they come to bed, it's like, I'm on, And it's an absolute cycle that people get stuck in.
Yeah, it's really hard because when we are overstimulated and all these internal processes are revving up rather than winding down, it is hard to then get into deep rejuvenating sleep. And rejuvenating sleep, going into deep rejuvenating sleep, you have to be in bed no later than 11, and you have to go into deep sleep. You have to sleep in total darkness, which often is a difficult thing, so you use a sleep mask. And you have to have, a good minimum of 7 hours of deep uninterrupted sleep, or your body can heal, repair, regenerate. And when women are dealing with adrenal exhaustion, they often have these anxiety attacks, or they wake up, their heart's pounding, palpitations about 4 a.m., which is all about low blood sugar levels. And again, the adrenals have an impact on our blood sugar. Anyone dealing with hypoglycemia is dealing with adrenal exhaustion.
Yeah, I remember in my own healing journey, that was one of the biggest things. I was just crashing. Like, when I got up, any kind of food, it was like that hypoglycemic dip. But instead of the odd afternoon, it was like after every meal and every snack. And that was definitely the worst point of it. And thank goodness that's gone. But
yeah, good for you. But that people need to read it the right way. And it's not just, I've got this hypoglycemia condition. No, a hypoglycemia condition is a condition. It's a symptom of the adrenals being dysfunctional, because the adrenals, one of the jobs of the many jobs the adrenals do, they help to regulate and maintain your blood sugar levels. So if you have anxiety attacks around 4 a.m., it's because your blood sugar is dropping really low at night when you're sleeping. And when your blood sugar drops too low, it's a real danger. You can die. Diabetic coma is when blood sugar gets so low. So the body, in an automatic response, will stimulate the adrenaline by the adrenals to bring that blood sugar back up. But what it's doing is waking you up with a jolt, like you had an adrenaline jolt, and now you're up and stimulated. But it all goes back to this issue of the adrenals really getting just such a demand on the adrenals that it can no longer keep up with our needs, and we really start to age rapidly, which is really what's happening when the adrenals are getting dysfunctional. We're accelerating our aging, which we don't want to do.
So this whole picture of adrenal fatigue, and most of us have got it, I think it's very real, but it's kind of depressing. So what are we to do? I mean, I have my techniques where I help people in my coaching practice, but I'd really love to hear, you're obviously the expert in this, a lot of these women are just like, I don't know what else to do. And I think that's one of the common symptoms, isn't it? It's like everything's wrong, but nothing's wrong. So no one will kind of have a solution. So where do we start?
Well, it's a big story, because we need to understand this isn't just like a upset tummy that we need to, take a little something or other, a little peppermint, and it'll be fine. This is heading us to a major failure of key systems that support all the primary functions of our body. We live in a culture and a society that does not ever stop. And we as women, being part of a patriarchal culture that, we get our kudos, we get our success because we have successful businesses, we make a lot of money, we're important, we're being asked to do this and that and run around, and then we have a family on top of it. And I know most women, they're, succeeding at their careers, they come home and they have to make dinner and look after the kids and clean the house. So we never stop. We never stop. And it's part of the wound, I call it the wound, of the patriarchal culture, where we don't give ourselves permission to have some downtime. We feel guilty when we take the time. So to answer your question, which has a big answer to it, because there are many facets of it, this is my personal journey. Yeah. So I had to learn to understand more of myself as a feminine essence, as a feminine energy. Yeah. And I had to understand that as a feminine energy, I have cycles, my menstrual cycles. And by the way, if you're on the pill, it's going to further exhaust and deplete the adrenal glands, because the pill depletes the body of key nutrients such as vitamin E, vitamin C, B12, B6, folic acid, zinc, magnesium, selenium, tyrosine, everything necessary to support the adrenals. So when women are on the pill long term, they're getting more and more depleted. These systems are getting more dysfunctional and affecting the adrenals. So I had to learn, for instance, to understand my menstrual cycle. I had to understand the follicular phase and the luteal phase. I had to understand that there's a phase from day one when we start menstruating until we start ovulating on day 13, day 14, that's an outward energy. And then I had to learn that the luteal phase, when we ovulate, when we conceive, for those that conceive, or metaphorically, it's the time when we conceive ideas and have to nurture ideas, we go within, is a very profound cycle that I had to start paying attention to, because in the luteal phase, you are more inward. The energy is taking you inward. In our patriarchal culture, where we follow a male rhythm, which is on all the time, go, 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 it is not recognized. It's not honored. It's not appreciated how powerful it is to take time. So I literally had to learn to do that. I had to give myself permission. I had to at times ask my husband to give me permission to take a nap. So I was starting to really pay attention to my menstrual cycles, because they are intimately and profoundly connected to the rhythms that the adrenals are part of. Because if we can give ourselves some of the withdrawal, the inward time, that's when our body rests and recuperates. So the thing I learned, and what I always tell women, is you can take the best products, the best vitamins, the best herbs, the best food. Oops, sorry about that. And it will never be enough of the answer. So if you don't really understand these cycles and take time, you're not going to give the body a chance to heal. You understand? So you actually, to truly heal and rejuvenate the adrenals, you have to include some degree of rest, R&R, meditation, relaxation techniques. You have to, just take a little nap occasionally, go for a walk outside, touch the earth. You have to learn that is not a luxury. It is a necessity in order to keep you in balance and in harmony for the rest of your life. So
absolutely, we
need to understand how profound that is, and how profound our own inner rhythms are, which match the rhythms of the adrenals. The adrenals work on circadian rhythms. They work with specific rhythms. Your cortisol, your long-term stress hormone, is high in the morning. You wake up, giving you energy, getting your body in a revved up state, all the cells, all the systems, and then it begins to wind down and decline until it's at its lowest point at night, when the body then switches into healing and repairing mode. So that was profound. So that's our psychological wound. That's our spiritual wound. In our Western culture, we don't give ourselves permission to be more receptive, take time, and understand the value of that for ourselves. Yes. So I just have to emphasize to all the women listening, unless women understand that has to be in some way, maybe just 15 minutes a day. I'm not asking women to take hours out of their day, but just a little bit consistently is fundamental to the long-term healing of the adrenals. You need to do that. Yes. So that's one facet of healing the adrenals. The other facet, obviously, is to nourish these adrenal glands. So they need to be fed. Now, the nature of women is that when we are under stress, we will use up a neurotransmitter called GABA. GABA is our natural Valium. When you take Valium, when you take Xanax, you're actually getting in a synthetic way of trying to stimulate the neurotransmitter called GABA, which is called an inhibitory transmitter. It calms you down, it chills you, it relaxes you, lets you have deep sleep. So as women, we naturally can get, very, very, stressed out with our lives. And stress for women, it's not the same for men, but stress for women will use up GABA. So just being in a state of stress and demands and running around will deplete GABA, and we'll get very anxious, and we'll get very overwhelmed, and we will get a frenzied state. We feel it as an anxiety attack, or just feel it in our gut. We need to appreciate that that's a sign that we are really deficient in GABA, and we need to take some time, some R&R, because that stress is always draining the adrenals. It's always exhausting the adrenals. It's always putting demand on the adrenals that can never recover. And we're vulnerable that way as women, just because of the cycles of our emotions and how we work. So any stress, any kind of stress, it could be an emotional stress, it could be a physical stress, it could be the cold of winter actually is a stressor.
Yeah.
It could be in the body, it could be parasites, it could be, leaky gut. All those are stressors that are putting a demand on the adrenals, which is why to heal the adrenals, you have to heal some of these root cause issues that are occurring in the body. Because the adrenals are there to help deal with inflammation. So anytime you're dealing with any level of inflammation and anything that's putting that alarm system into gear, the adrenals are called out to work. So, sitting in the traffic jam, feeling frustrated, is stimulating those cortisol levels. So, whenever you are frustrated, uptight, anxious, angry, you have to just think those adrenals are pumping out. Those adrenals are pumping out. And if you don't give yourself some downtime, they don't stop pumping out until you get exhausted. And I want to say there are 3 stages of adrenal exhaustion. So the first stage is when you just may not have all the energy, or you may get revved up at night. Second stage is when the demands of stress are just getting too much for the body to deal with. So you get more fatigued. You may wake up really tired. If you're really dealing with extreme adrenal exhaustion, you'll get up tired and stay tired all day long until maybe that little, burst of energy at night.
At night, yeah.
The more the adrenals get exhausted, the more your concentration goes, the more your memory goes, the more you put on belly fat, the more you will lose muscle tone, the more you will have gut issues, and the more you'll get your hormones out of balance, and some extreme anxiety and stress will actually stop menstruation, because it's just the first thing that goes offline if the body is into total overwhelm. So, and then the third stage, which you never want to get to, is when those adrenals are, I like to say they're too pooped to pop. So that's when you really don't have any energy. You really can't think. You can't concentrate. And you're vulnerable to any cold or flu. Your immune system, which is directly tied into those adrenals, is really at its lowest. So that's very vulnerable place to be. Very vulnerable to chronic illnesses, very vulnerable to things like breast cancer. Women with breast cancer have exhausted adrenal glands.
Okay.
We never want to get there because it's really hard to come back. And it may take up to 1 to 2 years to recover the adrenals. It's not something that is done overnight.
Yeah, for sure.
So I believe that that we as women need to be addressing the adrenals on a daily basis, just like we take our multivitamins and we take our fish oils, we may take our probiotics as part of a foundational program. We also need to be attending to our adrenals in that same way. So we need to nourish and feed those on an ongoing basis, because the older you get, the more they get depleted. But I'm seeing 20 and 30-year-olds, as you experienced yourself.
Yeah.
Severe adrenal exhaustion. There are infants being born adrenally exhausted now.
Wow. Yeah. No, it's such one of those things that it does take time, and I think it's that people don't want to hear that because we're so busy and rushed. It's like everyone wants a quick fix, but like you say, these adrenals are the powerhouse of our body. They are so important. It's amazing that they've been kind of ignored for so long. And it's just, that's what I'm finding. They are linked to everything. People who are frustrated, they just want to lose weight, or they just want to sleep better. It's like you're saying, it's not the symptoms, it's the cause. And I just love what you're saying. That's my vision as well, for it to become something that we're aware of every day. Because it's not prevention. Right. Like you say, most of us are already there in some stage. So it's a little bit of healing for everyone, regardless, as well as ongoing maintenance, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. And, this has been a journey that I've been on to heal my adrenals. And I'm very mindful of my adrenals every day now. I do things to support adrenals. The food I eat, the supplements I take, the lifestyle I have, it's all there because the adrenals will determine how rapidly you age. So if you really if you're big into healing and regeneration, you have to actually pay a lot of attention to the adrenals and choose things. I know we're running at a quick pace. And I know our culture is getting crazier and crazier, but those that really want to wake up and take charge of their lives have to understand that you've got to be willing to swim upstream. You can create anything you want. You want to create 15 minutes because you see the importance, you will make it a priority. Absolutely. So to say, as we do, it's, our lives are so busy and we can't do it. And I know a lot of people have a lot of good evidence to prove that. But, what I want to just remind everyone, if you set a clear intention that you want to take some 15 minutes for yourself, you will find 15 minutes. And that 15 minutes can profoundly impact your health.
Absolutely. I didn't actually share that with you already, Sherrill, but I've just published an ebook and it's called Time Poor, Health Rich. And it's exactly that concept. There's a whole lot of things in there, not just adrenal specific, but for health in general, that often take 30 seconds or 2 minutes. And yes, we have no time, but in the same way, it's absolutely a choice. And we do have time to do those little routines. Like you're saying, it's like taking a vitamin each day that over time will really have an impact on our health.
Yeah. Well, congratulations and good for you, because it's true. Every little bit matters. We've looked at studies that shows one outburst of anger can suppress the immune system for 5 or 6 hours. Wow. So just think of being in traffic and getting frustrated, and one experience of joy, just having that emotion of joy or gratitude can strengthen your immune system for up to 6 hours. Yeah. So it does matter, and we need to be more mindful of what's going on, because this is just the way it is. And if you don't want to be mindful about this and pay attention and work with your strategies and learn about the adrenals, you're going to be a victim of adrenal exhaustion. And doesn't have to be.
It's not much fun either.
It's not much fun at all.
No.
Those adrenals go out of whack. Your moods go out of whack. Your energy goes out of whack. You start putting the weight on. Yeah. You actually destroy part of your brain cells in the hippocampus that has to do with your memory. So anytime people are going, what's that person's name? It's like, it's your hippocampus. Stress is showing up.
Memory is actually one of the, I guess, surprising symptoms that I notice almost every woman struggling with who comes to me. I expect the tired but wired, or the fatigue and the stress, but almost everyone says the memory. It's interesting. Yeah.
And that's why actually high cortisols will destroy that part of the brain, and it's called the hippocampus, where we have short-term memories, where we store and create short-term memories.
Yeah, it's amazing. Could you, obviously it's very complex, but you have mentioned food a couple of times. Are there any particular foods or strategies that you believe in that help heal or nourish the kidneys, or even supplements?
Well,
I mean adrenals, but kidneys, adrenals.
Yeah. Kidney. I always talk about kidney energy.
Yeah.
I prefer talking Chinese medicine talk kidney energy. It's more comprehensive concept than just adrenals. So I understand. It's good. Well, we need to know what the foods are that are absolute adrenal wreckers, and we start with blinding flash of the obvious: sugar. Sugar will rob the body of nutrients. Sugar will stress the adrenals because it is a stressor. Yeah. It actually raises your insulin levels, which will raise cortisol levels, which will raise your estrogen levels, all of which will be storing fat and generating inflammation, while at the same time it will be suppressing your thyroid hormones and your progesterone levels. So that's why women who have PMS, fibroids, ovarian cysts, polycystic ovarian syndrome, infertility generally are estrogen dominant and progesterone and thyroid deficient. Yeah. So those hormones all go totally askew. And so sugar, and by sugar I mean not just sugar, sweets, treats. I'm talking about fruit juices, sodas, alcohol, and grains. And not just refined carbohydrates. We can be talking whole wheat, biodynamic breads, gluten-free breads, all the things that we define as healthy actually will all spike your blood sugar levels. And anything that spikes your blood sugar levels will be a drain on your adrenals. So I am a big fan of seriously cutting out all those foods that really contribute nothing to our nutrition, but will be stimulating and spiking our blood sugar levels. Mm-hmm. All the pastas, all the, just all the things that we as women often want to go for comfort foods, but they are they're culprits. They are culprits in draining us of our vitality and energy and our adrenal health. Mm-hmm. So that's one thing. We need to give up the junk food. We need to give up the crap. We need to give up the carbs. Mm-hmm. The other thing is on the other hand, we must make sure we're putting high quality proteins and fats into our diet. Mm-hmm. So this is a very controversial issue, although it shouldn't be, because it's pretty evident that what builds our body and what generates energy are actually proteins and fats. And yes, we need good quality vegetables and fruits because of the minerals and vitamins and fibers and those key nutrients. But we cannot create healthy adrenals without creating total pure, protein, a complete protein. And, just taking some beans is not a complete protein. The adrenals and all the endocrine glands require protein. In fact, any structure in your body, from your DNA to your enzymes to your hormones to your tissues to your glands, everything requires protein. Protein is the building block of all the structure, and you must have adequate protein in your diet. And it's really hard to get the complete protein if you don't have some sort of animal protein. It's hard. It's possible, but it's hard. Yeah. And if you're a vegetarian, and the hardest of all is the vegan. And vegans really struggle because they basically rely on carbs and do very little protein, especially beans. Lentils are not considered my complete protein list. Yeah. So they often have many, many, many deficiencies. I do not recommend a vegan diet for women. They want to be healthy and have healthy fertility. I'm sure I'll get a few comments about that. I've been doing this for 20 years. I've been a vegetarian. I can honestly share what I've been learning. So people do what they're going to do. But
it was my own experience as well. I was vegetarian for 5 years, and grass-fed, very high-quality meat, like understanding the difference in that, wild caught fish, all those things have been a huge part of healing my adrenals. So I'm on board with you. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, it's the truth. Yeah. So people can do as they please, right? But we suffer if we don't give our body the key nutrients. The other thing the adrenals need a lot of are minerals. So, our vitamins don't work unless we have minerals. We live in a country that has soils very deficient in minerals, deficient in selenium, deficient in zinc. There are just lots of minerals that the Australian soils, just do not have. And as a result, people really must take some good mineral supplement. Magnesium is one of those minerals really critical for the adrenals. Zinc is really necessary for our immune system, for managing our blood sugar levels, for detoxifying the body. Critical. And so we have to make sure we're taking really good minerals. And, often people go, well, I eat an organic diet and I eat really well. But the fact of the matter is, it's not what you eat, it's how well you absorb and assimilate. So that's another key issue, because in my practice as a naturopath for all these years, I can tell you that I don't see anybody who really has healthy digestive systems. So we have inflammation in our gut. We've had a history of antibiotics, of the pill, of steroids, all of which destroy gut flora. High percentage of people are gluten intolerant, lactose intolerant. Just the toxins we're exposed to will all destroy. Now we're into the GMOs thing. We'll be destroying our gut flora. We'll be creating inflammation in the gut. If those adrenals are depleted, or cortisol is too high or too low, which is produced by the adrenals, it will impair your gut immunity. Your immune system is found in your gut. That will go. So we really, need to understand how important it is to support and heal the digestive system. digestive enzymes, probiotics, things like aloe vera to help heal the lining of the gut, L-glutamine. Because if we don't have a strong digestive system and we're not able to absorb and assimilate, how can we get the building blocks, the minerals and protein, everything else to rebuild and repair?
Yeah.
And that's directly related to the adrenal issue. So the other vitamin that's really, really important is vitamin C. Vitamin C is the adrenal glands require high amounts of vitamin C to function. So we need to make sure we're getting high amounts of vitamin C. People go to my website, which is in Australia. It's called fatlossaustralia.com.au. I've actually found the solution to the obesity epidemic, and adrenals play a role in it, but it's the brain that actually is being more a cause. So we have to restore proper brain function. So I found a superior vitamin C because you have to get high amounts of vitamin C, which you cannot get from normal off-the-shelf vitamin C because it disturbs and irritates the gut. So people take much. And you need 2,000 4 times a day at least. You need about 8 grams.
Okay.
So I found, I not only found a form of vitamin C that I brought in from the U.S. that can do that without any upset, but I also have these tester strips, so you put a drop of urine on it, and it will turn colors, and if your urine is bright, bright yellow, you have optimal saturation of vitamin C in your body. Now, vitamin C levels change as different, we're dealing with different things. When we're under high stress or we have a cold and flu, we use up more vitamin C, and you'll see it with that little test strip. So you increase the vitamin C to keep it bright yellow.
So we're supposed to be bright yellow.
Bright yellow. So vitamin C is one of those key nutrients. We're winter time now down here, and winter is kidney energy time, which is the Chinese way of saying adrenals.
Yeah.
So this is not a time to be eating raw foods, not a time to be eating a lot of raw juices. It's too cold in nature. This is a time when the body, and this is the ancient wisdom, Chinese medicine, which I've studied and I follow and I have great respect for because it helped to heal my body, now is the time to have warming soups and stews. We need to bring warmth, and that is helping to rejuvenate and regenerate the adrenals. This is adrenal time. This season is adrenal time. It also is the time when we need to keep them warm. We need to get a little more inward. This isn't a time to be raging all night and partying into the wee hours. This is regeneration of adrenal time. We need to pay attention to that, because if we don't rejuvenate the adrenals in this time of the year when things are withdrawn, all the sap is withdrawn, everything is more quieter going within, then when the energy wants to come up in the spring, guess what? We won't have it.
It won't, yeah. And I've definitely noticed that this winter, now that I've got my practice running, the amount of people that almost get a bit panicky about what's going on. I think I've got adrenal fatigue, all of a sudden in winter. And I haven't studied Chinese medicine, obviously, or anything, but that has been my observation, that the winter energy has almost exasperated what was obviously already there, and it's just almost pulling them down if they're not nurturing the kidneys at that time.
Yeah, because remember, cold is a stressor to the body. It's just another stressor, and all stressors will be affecting and impacting the adrenals. So if we just have too many stressors and we're not taking care of business, then that system will collapse.
Yeah, excellent. I'm just loving talking to you about this, Sherrill. I feel like we could talk all day, and it's it's fantastic. It's aligning with the kind of 3 principles that are part of my program so beautifully as well. Obviously more in depth. Is there anything else that you wanted to share that women need to know? Like we did talk before this call about are there issues with fertility and conception that people should be aware of, like healing their adrenals first? So many of us are busy and, working, and then just jumping from that to motherhood. Is it important to heal our adrenals before getting pregnant?
Well, it is critically important. In fact, infertility issues are directly related to exhausted adrenal glands. Because remember, when our adrenal glands go, it's like a domino effect. So our thyroid is going to go, our immune system is going to be affected, our energy levels, our sleep, our moods, our blood sugar levels, our hormones are going to be all out of whack. We're going to be estrogen dominant. We're not, we skip ovulations. Everything goes awry. So, no wonder women are having a hard time with conceiving, because their bodies are profoundly out of balance. And, I have to say, this is a topic I talk about a lot. I write about a lot. But there's a booming business with the infertility situation in this country. It's very profitable business, infertility clinics. And I just want to caution women on going that way, because if your body is already compromised, if you can't conceive, it's not because, system just isn't there. It's because it's so depleted. It's so out of balance. It's so compromised. And then to force a woman to ovulate, which is what happens with fertility drugs, you're put on these Clomid estrogen-like drugs that cause you to super ovulate, which can affect your thyroid, can put you at risk of breast cancer down the track, and lead to a lot of imbalances to the mother and to the potential baby. And women are just suffering as a result of the treatments, if they're even successful. Right?
Yeah.
So it's so important, the work you're doing, Amanda, is to help educate women to see the immense importance of getting this knowledge, of taking action with this knowledge, because you can restore your fertility by paying attention and eating right and getting the right supplements and doing the strategies that rebuild and rejuvenate these essences in the body. And the adrenals are primary ground zero for hormonal balance.
Yeah. And what I'm hearing is that's across every age group, isn't it? It's in the 20s, in the 30s, and then 40s and beyond. The adrenals, just seem to be this key.
I mean, the older you get, the more important it is to have strong adrenals, because that's my big thing now, that we can rebuild hormonal essences, but the adrenals control these essences, and as they get exhausted and dry up, so do our essences. So that's why the aging process is taking place, and that's why it's taking place in younger and younger women. There are a lot of 40-year-old women who are their chronological age is 40, but their biological age is 60.
Wow. Yeah.
Because they're just so out of balance and depleted and toxic, which is another piece of this puzzle. So, it's important education. I have two websites. So one of them is in the U.S. and it's called whatwomenmustknow.com. And so if people go up to that website, I have some special reports, free reports, and one of them is on hormone myths and one of them is on adrenals. So this is my thing too, the adrenals. And then the other one, fatlossaustralia.com.au, is the site that I have for Australians that share with people the solution I found to heal the body, heal the belly fat. You see, what happens when you start getting adrenally exhausted and you start putting on the belly fat, that belly fat becomes a very active endocrine organ. Not just blubber.
Wow.
So that becomes an endocrine organ, producing more estrogen and more inflammatory chemicals and impairing a hormone called leptin, which makes us feel, when it's out of balance, never full. We're always hungry. And so all these stressors are going on, and it's storing the belly fat. And I will just tell everybody that dieting and exercise will never heal the problem. We have to restore the body's ability to have proper metabolism again. And that comes from healing a part of our brain, the hypothalamus, that controls energy.
Yeah, wow. Okay.
So my program is really designed to heal the cause of obesity quite successfully,
Wow, fantastic.
Starting with me, my 15 kilos and 4 dress sizes I lost when nothing would work because I was under a lot of stress and put it all on. So there are answers to everything, and I just applaud the work you're doing, and I hope everyone listening will really pay attention and start putting strategies in place and be mindful and loving of their adrenal glands, because they're going to support you to be healthy and vibrant and, emotionally balanced and rejuvenated for the rest of your life.
Yeah. And with that comes health and happiness and success as well, isn't it? It's the things that we're actually trying to get. Well, we can't get if our bodies aren't in that healthy place. So, yeah.
I mean, that's a really profound thing you just said. And for me, that's how I transformed my body. I healed all my health issues. I don't have any single health problem going on at all. And, keeping up a really full-on schedule, and I have tons of energy. I sleep well because I have put into practice and action everything you're talking about in my stage of life, where people are often winding down and complaining of aches and pains and all these things. It's like, I don't even think that. I will not go there. Yeah. And I don't have to, because I have been nurturing and feeding, and I use Chinese herbs for my adrenals and rejuvenating them. So I put my patients on specific Chinese herbs that are known to help rejuvenate and regenerate the adrenals. And you can stay young and healthy and vital at any age as a result. It's all dependent on how healthy those adrenals are.
Yeah, fantastic. You're such an inspiration, Sherrill, as well, because like you said, it can be a hard journey back, but it can be done. And I'm glad that you're sharing that message with the world. I feel like I could talk to you for hours, and I'm sure we will talk again soon. But for anyone who is watching this video, Sherrill is talking in Sydney this Thursday night, so there's still a chance to get tickets. And then do you want to tell us about the other places in your tour you're going as well?
Sure. So I'm in Bondi on Thursday night, and if people want to know the schedule, how to book, it's fatlosaustralia.com.au. It's on my homepage there, all the schedules. From Sydney, Thursday night to Sydney. Friday, I head off to New Zealand. I'm speaking at a women's wellness conference in Tauranga. I think I'm saying that right, Amanda. Yeah. And then I go and do a bunch of events in Auckland and Waiheke Island, so that's going to be fun. And then from New Zealand, I go on. The end of my tour is Cairns and Townsville, so I'll be heading up to far north Queensland and doing some great lectures up there before I actually return back to the States on August 7th. So
beautiful. Yeah. Well, thank you so much. I'm very, very grateful and to have had you. And I hope this is going to just help all the women out there who are struggling with adrenal fatigue. Go check out Dr. Sherrill's site. Sounds like there's some amazing information on there. And if you're not already, sign up for my newsletter at my website, which is fuelurbanwellness.com. And I'll continue to share more articles as I go through my journey healing adrenal fatigue, and hopefully we'll get everyone on board healing all of our adrenals at once. It's so important. So thank you, Sherrill.
Thank you, Amanda. Keep up the great work.